Get to our panel right now. Joining us for this part of the program, Zhao Zhenge is the General Representative for China Council for the Promotion of International Trade's U.S. office. From Beijing, Zhang Jianping is Director General of the Center for Regional Economic Cooperation at the Chinese Academy of International Trade and Economic Cooperation. And also with us in the studio, Brickman is the Senior Vice President of Strategy and Development for the Organization for International Investment. Thanks to all of you for joining us. Zhang Jianping, let me start with you. We were just listening there to the former Ambassador Gary Locke talking about this relationship, this trade relationship between China and the United States and the talks that have been taking place. What is your assessment of this economic dialogue? Has it made the kind of progress that you expected?
Yes, I think that at this stage, the trade issues between China and the U.S. is a top, focus and priority area. Given that both China and the U.S. is a mutual biggest trade partner, and from the U.S. side, complained about a huge trade deficit on trading goods. But from Chinese side, we also feel uncomfortable for trade deficit on trading services. So I think that this time this dialogue is trying to explore some of possible approaches to solve the problems. The good thing is that before the dialogue, by 100-day plan, as well as early harvest program, actually from Chinese side, we already show our good willing to change trade imbalance situation, such as we imported increased imports, including beef, natural gas, oil, as well as auto products, something like that. Also, given that China has a very huge market, we can import a lot of products from the U.S. The problem is that the U.S. side is still, constrained high-tech products export to China. On this aspect, we hope that from the U.S. side, the U.S. can consider and change related policies. Of course, except trade issues, I think that investment issues, in the past, we have our BIT negotiation, right. But this time I do believe that bilateral investment issues, climate change issues, energy issues, as well as infrastructure issues, all of those should be the contents of comprehensive dialogue.
Okay, Zhenge, one of the questions I raised with Ambassador Locke in that interview was the U.S. trade deficit with China. Now, some may see that as a problem, others see it as an opportunity. So you here, you represent China, you want to increase trade between these two countries. Where do you see the areas where there is potential growth so that one of the results of that would be the closing of this trade deficit gap?
Yeah, that as the major trade and promotion organization in China, we mainly provided the services to promote the trade and investment through two major ways. One is the mutual trade and investment promotion between the U.S. and China. On the other hand, we also try to offer the services such as legal services or arbitration, business conflict settlement. So with the trade deficit, that there are many areas that we can work together to reduce it. Between U.S. and China, for example, that for the relax of the high-tech restrictions, and also that the CVS examinations, and also some other barriers, if they are reduced or softened, that really can help reduce the trade deficit.
Right. Yeah. Aaron, these two countries are not without their problems, as we've just heard, a whole host of issues that they need to negotiate, that they need to overcome. One of the things is that trade between the United States and China is contracted by 7% last year. What do you think needs to be done to prevent a bigger contraction?
Well, I think what we've heard is that for the most part, the easy things have been done, and now we're on to the hard things. And as Ambassador Locke alluded to, we've seen this coming for a few years, and it's really coming to the fore now. And the Trump administration is making very clear through its pronouncements, that the direction is going to be much harder for these two interwoven economies unless we can come together. And so for both sides, I think there are a couple areas not easy that we need to be going toward. One is increased market access for U.S. firms in China, clearly. And so that increased market access will increase U.S. foreign direct investment in China. We'll continue to see Chinese foreign direct investment here in the United States, and that will have a positive impact, as you were talking about. The trend lines have been negative for U.S. investment in China. It goes to show that there are some real market access issues, and those can't be wished away. And meanwhile, Chinese investment here in America is surging. Just as Chinese direct investment in Europe is surging, so too is Chinese investment here in America. And this has a real important impact, not just in terms of big picture metrics and data that's sort of intangible, hard to understand, like the trade deficit, let's say. But it has a real impact on American workers and in communities across the United States. Rhodium Group estimates 140,000 Americans are employed now directly by the U.S. subsidiaries of Chinese headquartered companies. That's a big deal, but that's also a very important starting point as we continue to understand one another. This is not in grand terms. This economic relationship is young, and we have a long way to go.
Okay, let me get the view of Zhang Jianping in Beijing. We just heard Aaron tell us about these concerns that the United States has about market access in China. What is China doing about that? And, I mean, would these talks be a good starting place for something to happen in that regard?
In China now, we have already determined to be more open for market access in service sectors, as well as some of important manufacturing sectors. Last year, actually, we have revised our, negative list, for foreign investors in both, free trade experimental zones, as well as in all over the country. This year, we further revised that list, and you can find that in financial sectors and in transportation sectors, logistics, as well as China's professional services, something like that, including some of manufacturing sectors such as new energy vehicles, something as well as transportation equipment, something like that. We started a new opening progress for foreign investors. So I think all of those would be very good foundation for this comprehensive dialogue. Of course, we know that from the U.S. side, the U.S. has a very high expectation for China's further market opened for service sectors. Of course, from Chinese side, we realize that in China, we still in progress of development. In many service sectors and manufacturing sectors, the further opening up will seriously impact on China's domestic firms and corporations. So in this regard, we also hope that from U.S. side, you can understand the situation in China. So I think that this time our comprehensive dialogue will promote mutual understanding. Also, we can have a further discussion on how to make China's market access perform better in the future.
Right, Zhenge, what is your view on this? I mean, these trade and economic relations, it's give and take, it's a two-way street. As far as market access is concerned, we've seen a start. The United States beef now being exported to China, Chinese processed poultry coming to the United States. What else needs to be done?
China and the U.S. As the two largest economies, the economy and the industries are very complementary to each other and also interdependent on each other. In addition to the beef and the chicken, actually there are a lot. For CCPIT, we mainly provide services to the business communities, the companies of China and the U.S. CCPIT with over 70,000 corporate members in China. Many of them are very interested in not only beef or chicken or whatever. They are very interested in further enlarge their import from the United States, in addition to the beef, chicken, and also soybeans, wheat, and corn, and other agricultural products, machinery, as well as those technologies transfer that can be used in China.
Aaron, where do you see these talks going, this economic dialogue? Do you think the two sides are going to be able to address these issues? I mean, there's also another issue which we haven't talked about yet, and that is steel imports, overcapacity on the part of China. That has been an issue here.
Well, yeah, that's the question of the hour. But I think what today has shown us, and the fact that there were something like 60 engagements between the two sides just to get to today, shows you this is going to be a hard, long slog. And we really should understand this, this real complexity involved, and to counsel patience. At the same time, patience does not seem to be a quality employed by the administration right now. And there is a lot of emotion around this issue. And what you heard from Secretary Ross in some of the video that was played earlier, what you hear from President Trump, definitely resonates with the base in the United States that voted in this administration and views China as an unfair partner. Now, that's an oversimplification, to be sure, but I think that the Chinese investor community can learn a lot from the broader international investor community's experience in the United States. So China's investment position in the U.S. is relatively young, very young. In real terms, European investment, Canadian investment, Japanese investment even has been here for generations. And I think in real terms, China's companies, while having a demonstrable success here and making a difference in communities across the country, as I already mentioned, are still behind the curve in terms of best practice here and can learn from their peers from elsewhere.
And insofar as what Aaron was saying about Chinese being a very young player in this game, how does the Chinese side respond to that?
For the Chinese direct investment in the U.S., actually, in recent years, that more and more Chinese have a strong interest, to make investments in the U.S. According to the figures issued by the Rhodium, that amounted last year over $46 billion U.S. That is really increase. With the Chinese foreign direct investment increasing in the U.S., the Chinese companies also have some kind of issues or problems or experience or lesson to learn. That for the market access to the United States, they also meet those challenges, such as those CFIUS, the examinations tightened, and also also the visa issues for their workers, and also they also need meet such challenges as the management of cross-culture management for the local staff, local management. The Chinese companies are learning, for some of the companies, they also meet the challenges for such as this barriers such as anti-dumping or Yeah.
we have to leave it there. We've run out of time. Thanks to all of you for being with us.